Hi, my name is Michaela Poole, and this is a presentation on CAL, Computer Assisted Learning, for the TEDV 411 Technology course with Dr. Arnold. So who am I? I just mentioned my name, Michaela Poole. I'm a junior at the University of Arizona South studying elementary education. My target grade level is 2nd or 3rd grade, and in the future I hope to receive my master's degree in education in general, because I'd like to teach high school as well. I like the flexibility of being able to teach K through 12. As far as where I'd like to teach, I'd love to stay in Southern Arizona, but if that is not a possibility, I'd like to go back to the East Coast because Virginia is where I'm from originally. Subjects that I would like to teach, preferably if I could have my way, I would like to teach art or music, but I know that that's not always a possibility, especially with budget cuts. Art and music are kind of put on the back burners a little bit, but if I could choose, that would be what I would like to do. As far as technology, pertaining to my grade level, it's very important. There are already technology standards integrated into the curriculum for 2nd and 3rd grade. From pretty much K through 12, there are technology standards. So, to me, it's very important to ensure that I am giving my students the best education possible with technology and ensure that they are meeting those standards that are required of them. What is computer-assisted learning? So, you're basically using technology to deliver the content and to help students learn the content. So, I have a little picture at the bottom left of the man who's standing in front of a board, and that's supposed to be representative of a smart board. So, things like that, learning tools where you are using technology to either deliver the content or help teach it. Using a smartboard is a good way of that. You can show the content and also make changes to the content in real time in front of the students. Most of computer-assisted learning is use of software. So there are different programs that I'll talk to you about in the future slides that help you teach the content or solidify the content. Pros and cons of computer-assisted learning. So some of the pros are that they're intrinsically motivating programs. So you're using kind of fun little gameplay to teach the skills or enhance the skills that students already have in the content areas, which can be useful as an introduction or to help motivate students to continue practicing their skills once they've already been taught. In the case of simulations, they can help students experience things that would not usually be possible. So let's say your students take an interest in the ancient Egyptian pyramids. Well, you know it's not possible to really get the budget to take all your students to Egypt, but it could be possible to have a simulation of like a walkthrough through the ancient pyramids and things of that nature. You could also use simulations to teach concepts about like things that are not necessarily easy to visualize without expensive equipment, like protons and electrons. You could do a simulation on that so that students can see what's going on without needing expensive laboratory equipment. And then another pro is that by using technology to enhance the learning, students are also learning how to interact with the technology. They're learning how to use it, they're learning how to manipulate the technology to do what they want it to do, and things of that nature. And then some of the cons are that it can be difficult to ensure that the programs that you're using are not just fun, but they're also teaching students the content. It's important for these programs to be fun, but at the same time, it's also important that they are standards-based and that they are teaching the students something they need to know, rather than just wasting time by playing a meaningless game in the classroom. And then over and misuse of software. These certain software types are intended for certain purposes. So like, we'll go over this in the next slide, but tutorial programs are different from simulation programs, and if you are using a tutorial program as a simulation program, you're not going to be teaching them effectively what needs to be taught through that program. And then overuse, a lot of teachers will say, well, they're learning really well with this subject through this game, so I'm just going to let them keep playing the game. And by using that overuse, you're not really teaching the students anymore. They're learning some things through the games, but you still need to give them some instruction and some guidance on how to use the knowledge and things of that nature. And then there's a concern for potential lack of skill transfer. So the skills that they're learning through the technology, some people are concerned that they won't be able to use those skills outside of the game. So you really have to be cautious as an educator that you are not only providing the programs, but you're also helping the students with the transfer of that knowledge, and you're ensuring that they won't just know the information for the purpose of the programs, but they'll also know the information outside of that. And then another con that's not listed on here is that the increase of screen time can actually be attributed to an increase in obesity, and you really have to ensure that the time spent using technology and media is effective time, because otherwise you are increasing that risk for no reason. So the 5 types of instructional software are drill and practice, which is where students basically answer questions on a subject and are given direct feedback, so incorrect or correct. And then there are also extensive drill and practice activities where they receive a paragraph or two about their answer and how they could change it to fit what is correct. And an example of that would be on the bottom left, which is the Brain Pop, and that's actually the Brain Pop Junior website. There's lots of different games on there. And then tutorial programs, they give information and instruction on a topic, and they use directed teaching to help the student learn the concept. So an example of that would be like a how-to type of program where it teaches students maybe the steps of the scientific method or things of that nature. And then simulations, they show how systems work, either real or imaginary. We kind of went over that in the last slide. Some different simulations would be like iCivics. You're learning about the whole process of civics and voting and all that in general, which can be kind of hard for students to picture when they're just receiving directed instruction about the concept. And then instructional games, they add rules or competition to drill and practice or simulation software. So the bottom right picture is a picture of Factile, which is a website where you can create a Jeopardy game, and that's an example of instructional game because it's adding competition to what they're already learning. So they'll compete with each other in teams. And then problem solving, there's 2 types. The first type is the software actually teaches directly the strategies used in problem solving, or the second type is they give the learners the opportunity to learn problem solving strategies through the problems and through the games that they're playing. Drill and practice example would be Lexia. So the Lexia program is primarily used for literacy and language arts, and basically the students are given games and they pertain to different standards-based categories, and they're given correct or incorrect feedback, and then the game actually advances based on their improvement and their mastery of the skills in the game. And then the teacher is actually given an assessment sheet of how each student is doing with each session. So they're given like a progress sheet. And then an instructional game example would be Orchard. So Orchard is for K through 3. I believe they also have one for the higher grades, but I focused on K through 3 because that's my target grade level. And the feedback is integrated into the games. Each of the games is standards based on grade level. So like the bottom left picture of the Kitten Fun is a counting game, and that's intended for kindergarten. And then the right picture is a graphing game that's intended for, I believe, second or third, and it basically instructs them on how to complete the activity. And like the graphing game, it tells them how to make a graph while they're also playing the game. So it can be very helpful to practice the skills that are learned in math through this game. It helps kind of jog their memory about what they should be doing. So NAEYC has opinions about child access to technology and screen time. So basically, like we said earlier, one of the concerns is obesity. The White House Task Force on Childhood Obesity recommends not more than 2 hours per day of screen time for children over 2 years old. So NAEYC wanted to talk about how teachers can promote an effective use of technology and how they can do it in a way that's going to benefit all. So I read through the guidelines, and basically some of the main points are that developmentally appropriate practices must be considered when choosing the technology and integrating the technology. So you really have to think about what ages are these children, what should they be expected to do, and what do I want them to be doing. And that needs to guide what types of technology, what types of media, how long they are using the media, and what types of media they have access to. Another thing that NAEYC stresses is a focus on the individual student. So we need to focus on individual abilities and age and needs and interests. We need to ensure that every child, regardless of disability, has access to the technology, so we need to give access to assistive technology when needed. And then also, we need to ensure that while we are using this technology, we are teaching students how to use it effectively and responsibly, so we need to teach them digital literacy and digital citizenship, because since they're going to be interacting with technology basically their whole lives, we need to give them those skills now, so that they know how to be a responsible technology user. I believe that if you take into consideration the standards, the different types of programs you can use, and the guidelines that NAEYC gives you on how to use technology in the classroom, I think that would give you the framework for how and when and where to use technology in your classroom. And I think that it will still be relatively difficult to ensure that the standards are being met and the technology is being used effectively, but it will be easier once you take all these things into consideration. So thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new about computer-assisted learning.